It's Tuesday, 12:30 on a Tuesday, and hello! I'm so pleased for you all to be joining us today on this beautiful day. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that it's a beautiful day for you as well, and that everything is going as well as it can be in your life. Today's special guest is a very incredible and interesting human being as well as a great person. So hello, Edward.
Oh, hello, Michelle. I'm so honoured to be on your show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. And it's so wonderful to have yourself, who is such a personality, and as I was saying this morning, an enigmatic personality on the show today. With all of your incredible background as a soldier, as a this, as a that. And I was fascinated by the 10,000 plus hours of personal coaching. There is so much to uncover, and I hope we can get through a lot of it over this next half hour. But please tell the viewers a little bit more about yourself.
Well, firstly, Michelle, it's a pleasure being here. My name's Edward Zier. I'm an old veteran from another time. And international master coach. And basically my wife and I, Lassie, we help people across the world become influencers, and we run a business network too.
Fabulous. And what's a little bit of your background? I know a few bits and pieces, but how did you become a master coach? What did you want to be at school, for example?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I originally always wanted to work in the government, and I did. And what happened to me, I was in the government originally, and I got injured really badly when I was in the government. Almost died in a coma and all that. And what was interesting for me, that was a big change in my career that I wasn't after. If I wasn't injured, to this day, I'd probably still be in the government. Whereas for me, that just threw me in a totally different direction in life. And it took me in a very unique path. And basically later on in life, I ended up becoming a homeless veteran. You know, my 29, 30, I was a homeless veteran. And that gave me a chance to really reboot my life. And I decided I want to be a coach. And it was interesting. It's just over 10 years ago, I said, I wouldn't mind being a coach in some kind of global character. And, 10, 12 years later, here I am. So it's funny, the stuff that I conjured up when I was a homeless guy actually happened. So I'm really happy about that.
And what a wonderful story that not that you became homeless, etc., but that you had the vision and you're living proof. And that's what I love to have on the show, is people that are living proof that if you find that vision, if you find your calling, another way I think of it is your calling, then, when you decide with your heart and soul to follow it, you can do it, and it is achievable. And Edward, you must have, people on my program, they have different views or different angles about what success may be. And given that you have really had some big highs and big lows, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I look at success in a very holistic sort of viewpoint. To me, success is being successful in all areas, such as financial, relationship, spiritual, physical, that sort of thing. So I see success as a very multi-legged table. That's my own personal view of it. Of course, I weight things more highly than other people, but to me, it's about holistic success in every level. And the thing that always impacted me was, Steve Jobs even said he'd trade in all his billions of dollars to live longer. And that statement always, I'm a big Steve Jobs fan. Rest in peace, Steve Jobs. Big fan of that guy, and that statement really resonated with me. And it educated me early on about the importance of holistic success in all areas. Because at the end of the day, if you're losing in one area, you don't feel very successful regardless of how buff you are in other areas.
Exactly. That's a very important reminder. I mean, especially with what's happening in the world, with the changes around technology or COVID, whatever area you look at. One of my great influences was the whole Maslow hierarchy around success. Yes. Because at your bottom level, where survival is success, through to, you have a roof over your head, your view or your lens on success changes. But I love how you framed it around, you're always looking at those different areas or those different angles of your life.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring up Maslow's. Not many people talk about Maslow, so power to you, Michelle. I love Maslow. No one ever talks about it, but I'm glad you do, right? But what I love about Maslow's is self-actualization. And one of the things is right now I'm actually in the process of self-actualization big time. And I tell you what, when you sort of work your way through the pyramid, you can focus on what really matters. Man, it makes life empowering. And that's my big advice to everyone watching from what I've learned is, A, if you don't know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, go learn it, just Google it. But secondly, the importance of getting all your security in place and self-actualization to me is a very, very important thing, especially if you're going to make an impact on this world and help other people.
Well, and that's where I think, and thank you for that, because I think people that I meet and that I know that are making the biggest impact on other people are the ones that are going for that self-actualization. So in a sense, you have the ducks all in a row, yes, and then you can do that. But I want to also stress that it does take that focused work, in my belief, on the actual bottom levels of Maslow's hierarchy. You need to have a roof over your head, the income and all of that.
Yeah. And I think as well, you need to have the basics covered, but you also need to be going in that direction as well, because you can spend your whole life having the basics covered and, you know, die very unsatisfied, not making an impact on the world. So yes, I think it's all about, of course, you got to have your basics covered. You got to pay your taxes and have housing and health and all that. However, you also need to be building the foundation to where you're spiritually going in the world and what the universe / God / whatever you believe in has for you in store.
And that's a lovely segue then into what you would suggest to people, you know, going from a homeless veteran through to this world-renowned coach. And I feel very honoured that you've come onto my show today, my humble little show.
That's not true. It's not humble. It's not humble. It's powerful and awesome, Michelle. But thank you. But your show is anything but small and humble. It's powerful and full of winners.
Oh, thank you. Well, powerful and full of winners show. I'm still very grateful for you to come on. And with that perspective, as well as, you know, you've been through all realms of life, if you like. And so with that knowledge and that understanding, what would you suggest as 3 tips or 3 things that people can do, no matter where they are on that hierarchy, no matter what vision they may have a small little idea about at the moment? What would be 3 tips that you suggest?
Yeah. The first tip I would say is think about very carefully where you're going in life. So think about what you want to do in life. It might take you a few weeks, months, or even years to figure out, but you need to have a clear direction in your life. That's point 1, because if you don't have a clear direction, you're just going to end up working for the landlord and paying taxes your whole life. And believe me, I've met a lot of people in the 60s and 70s who just regret their whole lives. Right. And and believe me, I know a lot of these people, you don't want to do that. So point 1, know exactly where you're going. Point 2 is, as you said before, Michelle, is you got to look after the basics. Make sure you got funding coming in, make sure you've looked after your expenses, make sure you've got good housing, and make sure that you're in no imminent danger. You've got the bases covered, because you need a clear direction. You need your bases covered, which is all very important. And that brings me to the third point, is giving back. So even if you're on the bottom, so to speak, and believe me, I know that one well, help people all the way. So for example, when I was a homeless veteran, I spent a lot of my time listening to people and talking to people and actually ministering and talking about Jesus. So even when I was a homeless guy, and I had less than nothing, I actually owed money. So I was actually below homeless. Homeless implies you're zero. I actually owed money. So I was worse than that, right? I still had time to minister, still had time to help people. I listened to people with their problems. So even if you think you've got nothing, you'd be surprised at you can still be giving even when you're on the bottom. And in fact, some of the most generous people I know have been on the bottom. You know, it's that video that goes around LinkedIn, that homeless guy who only had 6 bread rolls gave a bread roll to the person next to them. It's that sort of logic. So even if you think you got nothing, you can still give back to other people. It's all part of not just growing in a physical, materialistic sense, but also growing your spiritual consciousness.
Wow, what powerful and wonderful insights and very profound insights, I think, as well, for anybody watching to really take on board. And I really love the giving back. I have a chapter in my book that talks about the cycle of giving and receiving, very much from the Bible kind of concepts as well, but I don't frame it in religious sense. But it talks about how, and I use the tree analogy, you know, for a tree to grow a new tree, it needs to give up its fruit, and then from that fruit comes a new tree. So it's very much that giving of the fruit, and then you receive a new tree in its place. And I love how you describe that even when you feel like you have nothing, you can still be giving back and listening to others.
Yeah, and it's funny, again, when I was a homeless guy, I spent a lot of my time listening to other people's problems, you know, and that's when I kind of realized, hey, I'd be a good coach. Even as a homeless guy, I'm good at listening to people's problems. I thought, And then I figured out I could actually make money out of this. And I thought, oh my God, this could be my new direction. There you go. And I said, this Persian guy ain't going to be homeless forever. So, you know, there you go. So yeah, been there. And it's funny because the thing that I've really learned is that the more you give to other people is good karma comes your way. Anyone watching this show is not going to dispute the karmic concept, but also two, you become really popular. So where I was at that time homeless, I was actually very popular. So a lot of people around town found out I was a homeless veteran. I did not miss out on a meal. I was very well looked after by the community. So even though I was a homeless guy, I wasn't treated like a vagabond. I was actually treated like part of the community. And that was because I'd be so generous and always giving to people. Even though I had nothing physically to give, but energetically and time-wise, I had a lot to give, and I was very generous from that viewpoint. But my point is, that's actually what helped me make me popular. You know, giving people are very popular and well-liked people.
And I think that that's important now for wherever people are watching and seeing this, to help them understand that as well, that whether it's time or whether it's a friend's ear to listen to, with all of the mental and wellness concerns that industry and society and culture has at the moment, you know, one of the biggest gifts you can give to people is just listening to them and listening to the problems that they've got in their lives.
Yeah. And also too, from a influencer point of view, being giving makes you very well liked and popular. So you think about it for a second, to be a successful influencer, you need to be, with respect to the people you're trying to influence, you need to be popular and well liked by those people, you know. And what better way than giving some stuff? It's human nature, right? Humans are like this. It's very hard to hate someone giving you something. Very hard to hate them, right? It's like, that person gave me $100. Man, they're evil. You don't often hear that. You know what I mean? You very rarely hear that. Feel like, oh man, such and such gave me $100. Isn't Sally awesome? You know, so human nature is very much, if that person's giving me stuff, I will like that person. That's just the way rightly or wrongly, that's just the way humans are engineered. And when you understand that, you should give to people because it's karmically good and all that. But secondly, it actually makes smart business sense.
So let's look at the 3 tips from a business lens, Len, using this, you know, it makes smart business sense. What would be some tips you'd give other people? Because I know you're such a hugely successful influencer. What would you say?
I like you, Michelle. Just to let you know that. I like you, Michelle.
I paid him, everybody, you know.
Yeah, and you can pay me too. Money's almost welcome. So there you go. Ed loves money, so give it to me. And give Michelle some money too. Michelle's pretty cool.
You're too kind. But what would be, you know, because if I'm a business owner, and there'll be some business owners watching this and they're going, you know, there's no job keeper, there's this, there's that, you know, you could list off all the different really serious problems and issues they're facing. And they're you know, working their way through Maslow's business hierarchy. What would you say to them? I mean, they may feel like they want to give time and listen to people's problems, but they're just so concerned about other issues they have. What would you talk to them about in terms of mindset?
Well, firstly, for anyone who's being impacted by global lockdowns or any business downturns, thoughts and prayers go to you. I had my business wiped out during a bad election in 2019, so I know what it's like to lose your business. Been there, right? So firstly, my thoughts and prayers to anyone watching this who's been wiped out. The second thing I'd say to those people is, the first thing you gotta do is go speak to your accountant and speak to the government. Speak to your accountant to look at your numbers, and speak to the government to see what grants you're eligible for. Okay, and you'd be surprised, there might be some stuff you're eligible for to help you get through the meantime. Let's say you can keep your business, you might have to close your business down, okay? If you have to close your business down, speak to your accountant. There's a right way of doing it that gives you a good clean slate so you can rebuild yourself. So that's the first thing I want to say, right? Speak to your accountant, speak to the government, go through all the correct steps. The second thing I want to say is really make the hard decisions and get your affairs in order. So the sooner you deal with reality and get your affairs in order, hence speak to the government and your accountant, is the more you can move on with things. So let's say you've got to close your business down. You can close it down in a good way that protects your credit rating and protects you and your family, okay, and keeps the home. Let's say you're able to keep your business and work through it. Have a good plan. and stick to that plan and really, really work through it. And this is the thing that I've learned. And again, I lost most of my business, another story for another time, but I lost most of my business well pre-COVID. And I learned these lessons, ironically, before lockdown, is as you come out, as you trade out of the Death Valley, is make sure you take those lessons to heart and save up some money, have some good savings to protect you. And I've done all that. So I lost my business, rebuilt it. And, whenever I can, I keep my expenses down and maximize my savings to protect me from any future damage, which can happen anywhere at any time.
Well, I've heard some people, and they're great tips, thank you, Ed, because I've heard some people talk about everybody is like 3 months away from, losing it all, and another.
I'd say a month. I think 3 months is generous. Yeah. I'd say most people are weeks away from losing the farm.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just reality, and, and nothing you and I will say will change that. But what I do say is losing the farm is actually not the worst thing that can happen to you. I know plenty of people who've lost the farm, then they come back as really savvy business people and make a lot of money. So what I'm saying is you can lose the farm in a very responsible way that gives you a platform to bounce back on.
And I think that that's the key thing, and that's why this program is about mindset, because if you've learnt to be successful once, you can do it again, but you've learnt the hard lessons. And it sounds like with your incredible journey, you've learnt the hard lessons a few times of how to then rebuild and come out stronger and bigger from there.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if you are going to lose the farm, you can lose the farm in a way that protects you so you can rebuild stronger and better.
Fabulous. And some people this morning when we were looking at the social media were also questioning, and it comes back to your philosophy, I think, around karma and giving back. How much has your own personal belief system kind of been, I write about it on my website as being like my North Star, from things that happened when I was a child that then became the spiritual beliefs and the parts that I hold on to, whatever's going on. And so people, when you talk about being a Templar and a Christian, we're asking around that and how that has supported you in your belief systems.
Yeah, so a lot of people are figuring out. So I'm a Knights Templar, which is basically, you would say, a modern-day crusader. In a modern sense, it basically means part minister, part politician, part, activist, right? Basically in a modern-day sense, right? It's basically what it means, like the Freemasons and all those awesome guys. So that's basically what I do. And a lot of people, like, have the Templar belief shaped me that much? I was kind of thinking that way before I became a Knights Templar. It just pushed me more in that direction. So I was already having those thoughts. It's just enabled me to go deeper into that rabbit hole. So that's where I'm kind of at. And it's been fascinating. It's, the being a Knights Templar and seeing a very different side of civilization has been very, very important. So, yeah, and it's all about giving back, and it's all about protecting the interests of the underdog. And that's something that's very important to me. Standing up for justice and people that need it, I find very important. Something I do very proudly and always have done.
Fabulous. And so with these themes of, obviously giving and being of service seems to be something that I hear, whether it was in the armed forces, whether it was a coach when you were homeless, having a business, and now having your current business as a coach. How do you think that theme of, being of service in some way, was there something that when you were younger you went, oh, okay, giving to others and being of service is something that really, I can see how it's my niche or my theme?
Yeah, well, originally I had a rough upbringing, right? And I spent a bit of time in the foster system. So I was in between homes and that sort of thing. So I had a rough, up to the age of 10, it was awesome. After that, I had a very rough, teenage years. As in rough in a first world sense. By first world standards, pretty rough. By developing world, I'm sure it's pretty normal. And anyway, so what happened to me was that I ended up joining the army and I loved it. It was just a chance for me to move on. And a lot of the Australian military and the Australian government shaped a lot of my beliefs about giving back, helping people, serving the public and that sort of thing. So, yeah, and then I ended up working with, I got seconded into drug enforcement, and I started working with a lot of very marginalized people in Australia. So I see, I suppose, society from a very, very different, I see it from a very streets viewpoint. So a lot of people said, Ed, you're a man of the streets. I'm absolutely a man of the streets in many senses, right? And so I definitely see things in terms of power, and I really see the underdog. And that's part of what's enabled me today, is that I love empowering the underdog to push back against problems wherever they may find them, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I mean, in my memory, I remember standing up, because I've always stood up for people that I feel are being bullied or belittled in some way. And I remember even in school, you know, doing it, and having that crusader sort of feeling of, you know, needing to protect people because they just weren't as as outgoing as myself, and they were being bullied or something.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, in high school, I developed quite a reputation for re-educating bullies. So I was very good at re-educating bullies. I can't see too much that's being recorded, but I used to, I know it's being recorded. I used to specialize in re-educating bullies, and I was very good at it.
wow.
And I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. It would wake me up every day saying, who am I going to re-educate today?
So the other theme that I keep hearing besides service is also around this community building, which I hear from, you know, your time in the army, and maybe as a reaction to the foster years as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So community building is very important, because one thing that, and big shout out to my wonderful wife, Lassie here, big credit to her. One thing I realized very early on in the storyline was that, especially as I sort of took off on LinkedIn and Meetup and everything, I realized there's so many lonely people out there, good lonely people out there, and all you got to do is connect these people and enable them. And one thing that I've really, especially during the original 2020 lockdown, one thing we've really taken heart is the importance of community building and bringing people together, because there's so many brilliant people that by themselves, they're powerless per se, but if you connect them to the right people, you turn them from powerless to dangerous very quickly. So we've got a reputation for making people dangerous, and that's what we're trying to do. We love making people dangerous.
I love that. I love how you didn't go from powerless to powerful. You went powerless to dangerous. That's great. That's real dynamite, as you might say.
You got to watch what we're saying. We're talking about power and dynamite and re-education. So you got to watch what I'm saying. Or
all those keywords.
Yeah, it's like dynamite, powerless, re-education. It's like, there you go. I gotta censor myself. There you go.
I love it. And so today you have this beautiful wife, Lassie, you have the successful business. You know, we were talking before about, you know, what's next, and you mentioned self-actualization, but what sort of things does that mean to you? Where are you going next?
Yeah, I've been asked this a lot lately, and my answer is not completely clear, but it's getting clearer by the day. My feeling and sentiment is around bringing more people together, reaching more people, empowering more people, and also so on an international level, reaching more people, which we are every day, and thank you for being a fan. On an Australian level is building our face-to-face meetup. So, yeah, within and without our lockdowns, running more physical face-to-face events to bring winning people together. Because again, there's so many, and I used to be one of them, there's so many brilliant, lonely people out there, and once you put them together, you basically turn them into quite an elite fighting force. So to me, it's very important. The more people we bring together is the more people can empower each other and support each other. And whatever, again, I'm a Christian, so obviously I'm batting for the Jesus Christ team, but whatever religion you're in, all religions talk, the good religions, the smart ones, always talk about the importance of bringing people together, because they get it. When you bring lonely people together and you unify them around a central vision, that's when A, they look after each other, but B, they create that social change that we're all looking for.
And I love the imagery as you're speaking. I can just see you creating, you know, the Knights of the Round Table and going on this crusade to create a better world. It's a wonderful imagery and vision.
Yeah, it's funny. A few people have been trying to stop us. I've received lately quite a few threats to my life and safety.
Wow.
So you'd be surprised. You know, I've received a lot of threats to my personal safety lately, because not everyone likes helping the underdog, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I've had a
Yeah.
lot of threats to my safety lately.
Wow. So again, given that with the conversation today, we've kind of touched on a few extreme situations in life. What would you say, or what do you do to kind of work through that mindset if people are taking what you're doing really seriously and want to stop it? What do you do with your own mindset to kind of keep focused?
Well, the thing is that the more resistance I face is the more it validates that I'm on the right track. You know what I mean? And you got to look at who are the people opposing you. And that's, to me, very important. You got to look at who are the actual people that are standing in your way. And a lot of the people that oppose me are people that have made, threats to my safety. They're people that are filled with very, very dark energy, if you know what I'm saying. They're very, very dark sort of people. And you know what? They don't support the underdog. They don't want the underdog being successful. They just want people living as slaves. So you got to look at, I always say, you got to look at who your fans are and who your critics are. And some of my critics are some very dark energy people. They're people you not want to bump into late at night in a train station, I can tell you that.
Well, from somebody that's worked in drug enforcement in some of the highly specialised areas, I can believe you if you say you don't want to meet these people. And we do have, unfortunately, people were gunned down. My bus stop in the city, one of the bus stops I go to in the city, was actually on the news when somebody got gunned down the other day. So it's.
Well, the good thing in my favor is I got some powerful people on my side as well. So the bad guys tend to stay away from me. And quite a funny note, sometimes when I'm going down the street and I see one of the bad people, they usually cross the road when they see me. It's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. And I guess for anybody that I speak to in more and more public positions, you do get that growth in people that support you and people that don't support you. So it's all part of that Maslow's hierarchy as well.
And I find people tend to polarize. They either want you dead or they love you. There's no, as time passes, and same for anything, polarization such an interesting thing. So it's you're either awesome or you're a pariah. There's no middle ground. The middle ground, the middle ground's as wide as the edge of a sheet of paper.
It sounds a bit like a Trump rally, you're in a forum or against it.
yeah. You're either support Trump or you hate America. It's that sort of. There's no middle ground.
Yeah. There's no grey. Well, I think in Australia, one of the good things about the culture here is that we do mostly live in grey and talk about grey.
So it's disappearing though. It is disappearing though. The grey in Australia is starting to really evaporate very quickly. We're getting very. And I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing, but we're getting, even in Australia, that grey is disappearing very quickly. We're getting more and more polarised by the day because people are ultimately picking which side they stand on. And I think the greys, the grey, there's not much grey left. The grey is decreasing from our society every day.
Well, and I think if we had a longer time, we'd talk about how throughout history, I think the grey moves.
Yeah.
But just very quickly, if you were to give your younger self, and I can't even begin to imagine, but going into foster care and through the years in the army, etc. If there was some advice that you gave your younger self, what would that be?
Don't take any bull from anyone and push back.
Okay. Even when you were quite young and everything?
Oh, yeah. Because if I, the more I push back in life, whenever I've put my head down and done what I've told, I've always gotten screwed. Whenever I push back, sure, I might get a broken nose or something, but every time I've pushed back, it's always worked in my favor. And I'm not saying push back like a moron. Sometimes you got to push back with a bit of strategy. You might, for example, just play ball on the surface, but you push back behind the scenes. So when I say push back, I don't mean that in a blunt, get yourself beaten up sense. It could mean push back in an infiltrator sort of way. You just say what you need to say, but then you carry on behind the scenes.
And you keep yourself safe throughout, exactly.
Yeah, well, you act like everyone else and say like things like everything else, but you do the right thing behind the scenes. That's very important too. Sometimes you can't be a hero. Sometimes you just got to, I hate this, sometimes you got to let something bad happen in front of you, but behind the scenes, you do the magic of protecting the innocent people and protecting the underdog.
And you keep working towards your end goal. So we're just about out of time, but how would people contact you and find out more about
you
and what you're doing, Edward?
Oh, well, of course the answer is LinkedIn. No one loves LinkedIn more than me. So LinkedIn, please, you can have me on Facebook and Instagram too if you want, but come on, LinkedIn loves you, and so do I, and so does Michele.
Fabulous. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I feel like we've uncovered so much and learnt so much today, and I really want to again thank you for your valuable time and more importantly, your valuable insights into a view and a lens on creating a successful mindset that I think is very special. And I really thank you so much today, Edward, for being on the show.
Well, I literally take my hat off to you. You can see my wonderful bald head, and the sun has come out a little bit. So it's horrible before, but now there's a little bit of sunlight behind the stormy clouds. I can't see a thing. I got to put my hat back on.
That's fabulous. And to everybody watching, I want to thank you as well for tuning in each week and for hearing these tips and insights into how you can create a successful mindset and go through like Maslow's hierarchy or whatever it may be to help you to take yourself from where you are and keep following your vision. So until next week, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.